There's a unique 5-story property for sale in Bohol. It's close to the beach, not on the beach, but about a kilometer away, that I want to show you today, as it looks kind of like a palace in some respects, as it has some really unusual features that you just normally don't see in a home. It also has some nuances that I think will make you look at it and go, well, that's interesting. What was that all about? So come along with me as I give you a personal tour of this very unique property here in Bohol. I'm Eric with Island Expats, and I think you'll find this property interesting and not something that you have ever quite seen before, especially in the Philippines. It's a little bit unique where it is and how it's put together. So as I walk you through this property, try to take a guess at what you think the property is worth. Later on in the video, I'm going to let you know what the property is actually listed at because it's currently on the market, and you can see if your guess was close. Now, speaking of value, I'll also tell you the story of an architect that I recently met, that he had a vision years ago, 40 years ago, of what Dumaloan Beach could become before it was completely undeveloped and nothing but sand. He was only 19 years old at the time when he attempted to buy all of the beachfront property before there was any development, which now includes the Bohol Beach Club, Oceanica Resorts, and the newly opened, and I think the first 5-star resort in all of Bohol called Panglao Shores. It's actually by the same owners of Oceanica next door on a beautiful stretch of white sand beach. So let's go check out this property and see what it's like, and you tell me if it's kind of like a palace.
Let's start off the house tour with the inlay overhead. Look at the gold and the fixture along with the blue kind of looking like towards the stars. Here's just an overview of the house to kind of put things in perspective. It's 4 stories and a very, very top deck with a stainless steel railing and then a water tank. Here's the front door. We're going to come in through there into the living room so you can kind of see how this kind of palace looks like. The Bohol Palace, I'm calling it, just because it's got some unique features. You don't usually see these inlays and that type of thing in Bohol. Here's the front door, double doors, and then as you walk through, you've got this inlaid into the marble on the floor. This is all marble, which is nice. Marble lasts quite some time and easy to clean, so it's kind of a nice material, and it's cool. So, it's warm in the Philippines, so that's probably a nice thing to have. As we look towards the kitchen area there a little bit and into the main living room, you see the inset on the floor and then this unique wallpapering, especially in the corners and behind the fireplace. And then here's the inset into the floor. A lot of detail there. I'm kind of surprised they put a table over the top of it after putting all that work into it. And then here's how the overlay at the top fits into it. The kitchen's nothing special, very standard. And then there's a bunch of bedrooms. I think there's 7 bedrooms. So we'll just quickly go through each. Right next to, and we're on the 2nd floor now, that's the master bedroom. And there's a CR next to each of the bedrooms. When you come off the master, you're going to come into this tub area, which is kind of interesting to have a glass see-through bathtub. Not sure why you want to do that, but whatever. And then there's like a separate living room area here, which is kind of unique, that goes out into the balconies. Now, the balconies are wrapped around. It's like an L shape, and you can get these great views. And then as you come back up and you're going to the 2nd and 3rd floor, you're going to hit the rest of these guest bedrooms. I think there's a total of 7 bedrooms when you add it all up. Pretty much each bedroom has got a CR. This is a very strange room at the top that was not in good shape. That's that structure you see at the very top of the house. And then you'll notice there's a water tank up here. This is a metal railing that you can walk up and get. This is actually the 5th story if you want to look from there, but the view is just incredible from the top of the house. So we're walking around the outside of the house, and you'll notice the rebar coming out of these posts. They do that in order to put in lighting most of the time, and it looks so unfinished. I wish they'd either put in the lighting or cut the thing off and finish off the post because it looks very unfinished. Here's the right-of-way to the left of the house, which is weird. The neighbors have got to drive around your property in order to get down to theirs. A little bit strange on the right of way. And then, of course, this is the carport that's covered. That's important. You want to get the car out of the sun. It is hot every day in the Philippines, especially in Bohol. You're looking at an average between 85 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit all year long. Here's a look of the house, kind of the whole thing, all the way up to the 5th deck at the very, very top with the stainless steel railing. And then you can see here, this is the right-of-way going down to your neighbor's house. So they've got to drive around your property to get to their property. I just find that a bit strange. Here's the other place you can park the car. So you have one outside, and then there's the carport. A little closer look as far as that goes. And then we'll just kind of walk around the property here. That's actually leading to the front door. You're going to see that in just a second through this gate. Here's the front door. So you have the separate gate. You could open or close or lock, which is common for the Philippines. Everybody wants a complete gate around their property if possible, just in case you're traveling. Here's a look at 1, 2, the 3 stories. Then the 4th story is where the deck area is.
Well, I hope you found the house tour interesting. Any idea what the property would be worth here in Bohol, about a kilometer from the exclusive Dumaloan Beach, which is some of the finest resorts in all of Bohol? You have your guess? All right, let's compare your guess to the drum roll, please. Bump, 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 bump. All right, this house is listed for 19 million pesos. So if we use a exchange rate of about 56, it's a little better than that right now. Been kind of holding 57, 58. But I use 56 as the average because that's kind of what it is over a longer time recently. And that conversion rate gives a US dollar price of this 19 million converted over $339,285, which is a lot of money for a house in the Philippines. To give you an idea, that would put you in the top 0.1% of net worth if you were to buy that type of a property for cash in the Philippines, out of everybody. Okay, we're going to have to say what the actual total cost is because there's a couple of things we have to add to that price, right? So when you're in the Philippines and you're buying a used home, a resale home, right, you're going to be charged a 6% capital gains tax, even if there's not a capital gains in most situations. I know it's a bit unfair, but that's just kind of how it works. You pay the tax, and that's how the Philippines is. So in this case, 6% of 19 million is going to be 1,140,000 pesos. Use the 56 exchange rate, $20,000 and 357. So 20,357 for the capital gains tax. You got to add to the price. Typically, closing costs run about 5%. There's a documentary tax, there's a transfer tax, and so that 5% of 19 million would be 950,000 pesos. Divide that by 56 to get US, and it's $16,964 for the remaining closing costs that you'll need. So that's going to put you at a total price of 21,090,000 pesos, which is a big number for the Philippines. Again, we'll divide it by 56 for the U.S. exchange rate, and we get $376,607. This house can be yours today for that price. It's a lot of money. It also has an unusual entry to the property, kind of coming off the dirt road. It's not kind of direct to the property, it's kind of around the corner. So it kind of comes off the main street on this dirt road. The street or the dirt road wraps around the property, and the neighbors use the same one, and they have to go past your dirt road, past your property in order to get to theirs. It's a little weird. So this is just part of the scenario here in Bohol, when lots are purchased within traditional provincial neighborhoods. For some people, maybe this isn't going to be an issue, having it all kind of mixed together, nice homes with provincial homes, but I just pointed out, and I don't pass judgment, but some people, it may be a deal breaker if they're going to spend that kind of money, 19 million pesos, to be, in a really nice home. Usually you want to be in an area with other nice homes so it holds its property value. But here in Panglao, it continues to go through transition, and it's been going on for a number of years now, 5-10 years at least, where a lot of the foreigners come in and then they buy up the lots from the provincial families in order to build homes. And because the lots are often passed down through the families, sometimes it's really hard to get a clean title. So that's one thing to look for. You always want to make sure they have one owner and the title is clean. So to put things in perspective, let me tell you about a guy I recently met here in Bohol. Really nice guy, and just kind of random thing. Was at the car dealer and get my oil changed, and I was talking to this guy. Turns out he's an architect, and it's kind of funny. He married a civil engineer. She worked for the city, and so they kind of have a joke like he designs things and she tears them down or something like that. Anyway, he's in his early 60s, super nice guy, and he grew up in this Panglao area, and he still lives there today. Now, he told me this story. It's really interesting. I didn't realize where it was going to go because we were just kind of meeting in the lobby and kind of chit-chatting. But he said back in the 1980s, when he was going to college to become an architect, he saw the beautiful white sand beaches in Panglao and all the land around them. And at the time, the locals would go and they'd hang out there. Of course, the land was owned by a particular landowner. And so at just 19 years old, he went and he talked to the landowner because he knew someday this is going to be worth some money. He said, would you be willing to sell me all of this land here, which is now known as Dumaloan Beach? And he actually was able to negotiate a price of 2 pesos per square meter. And the landowner was willing to sell him the property. All right. This is a big stretch of land here, several probably miles of land. So to put that in perspective, land in Panglao today that is not on the beach, right, an interior lot away from the beach, averages about 3,500 pesos per square meter. All right. He was going to be able to buy it for like 2 pesos per square meter. But if you get anywhere near the beach and you have a decent lot, you're going to be paying 10,000 pesos per square meter or more, depending how close you are to the sand and all that kind of stuff, especially on Panglao, because it's just much, much more pricey now. So again, this architect, he's going to college, and he didn't have any money, right? He's a poor college student. So he goes, Dad, this property, if we could buy this property, lend me the money. I'll go and purchase it, and one day it's going to be worth a lot. And the dad just couldn't see the vision, couldn't see the value in it. At the time, it's all jungle. It's just traditional Filipino homes mixed into the jungle, and he just didn't see it. Couldn't see the vision, didn't see the value. Thought the kid had his head in the clouds, and he wouldn't lend him the money. Well, undeterred, the young architect, he went back to his dad again and said, look, I tell you what, loan me the money, I'll buy the land, and I swear I'll pay it all back plus interest. Dad still wouldn't do it. He's like, this is such an opportunity. I just know one day it's going to be worth something. So the dad was a big no and just couldn't see it, wouldn't play ball. So he went to the dad's brother, his uncle, gave him the same pitch. Hey, there's this beautiful land here. It's right on the beach. I could buy it. Uncle didn't see the vision either. I mean, tourism isn't a thought in the early 1980s in Bohol, right? It's still a very provincial area. In fact, at that point, interior, because the infrastructure wasn't placed, right? The roads weren't placed all the way through. That the NPA, right, New People's Army, a terrorist group, was a problem in the interior of Bohol. So it's a totally different time 40 years ago. Well, anyway, unfortunately for the young architect with no money and no other options, both the father and the uncle just couldn't see the vision, and they thought, what do you mean tourists would come here one day? To a place like Bohol? Oh my gosh, now Panglao is known internationally, right? It's one of the favorite spots for Koreans in particular, which is one of the highest ancestries that comes to Panglao. But there's Western Europeans, Eastern Europeans, Americans, Canadians, everybody's here now. All right, now to be fair, this was before there was any development in Panglao, right? So you have to kind of believe in this kid's vision at the time at 19. And it was a completely provincial area, right? So we're talking at best, there are some concrete homes mixed in with bamboo, kubo type homes that are off on their own on stilts and that type of thing. And it's basically just jungle with these homes. And, these people are farming and they're growing different types of crops. And so it's hard to kind of see that vision for the uncle and the dad, because in these type of areas, these provincial areas, the land typically is passed down from family to family to family. So that's how it kind of works there. And that's why title is sometimes a real problem. Well, of course, today, this is the location of the most exclusive, the most high-end resorts in all the island of Bohol. And this includes today 3 of the most exclusive resorts that you can find on Bohol. The Bohol Beach Club, right next door is Oceanica, and then just recently opened in August for the first time, a 5-star resort in Bohol. It's owned by the same people from Oceanica, and it's called Bohol Shores. And to give you a reference, it's between probably about $200 to $300 US per night, which is a big price tag when you come to the Philippines. Well, the architect told me that he just knew these beautiful white sand beaches, this area that they call Dumaloan, would be really valuable one day. And he said he did all he could to try to buy that entire beachfront. The guy who was the owner was going to sell him the whole thing and all the surrounding acreage. He had a huge piece of land, but he just didn't have any money, and nobody would believe his vision. Well, I can't imagine what this exclusive area would be worth today. It's about 40 years later. This guy's in his mid-60s at this point. But I can tell you that we know that this palace-like home is 19 million pesos. And 19 million pesos is on a relatively small lot, and it's still a full kilometer away, or about 0.6 of a mile, from the Dumaloan Beach area, right? So just a small lot home, it's 5 stories, but it's worth 19 million pesos. I can't even imagine what the number's going to be. Anyway, one of those things, he tried really hard. He said, I really did, and it just didn't come together for him. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing this, what I call a Bohol palace. It's more like palace-like features. It's not an actual palace, but it's different, right? It's a unique property. And I thought you'd enjoy hearing the story of this young architect who tried so hard to buy all of the land in the entire beach area there in Dumaloan. Well, anyway, if you've got questions or comments on this video, please let me know in the comments section, and I'll do my very best to respond to each comment. I'd be curious to see, once you've got your number in your head on this palace-type property and what they're asking for, 19 million, what do you think is a realistic number? I personally feel the 19 million is pretty high, actually, given just the immediate area around it. But anyway, I want to see what you think. Let me know in the comments. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.